Everyone in the sprint car racing world is talking about these funky looking headers. In this video, I'll tell you about the 4 reasons why I think they're used. Okay, so first up, we've seen some funky looking header muffler combos before. I found this pic of Lucas Wolfe on the net. Not the same as we currently see on, say, Paul Silver's or Rico Abreu's cars, but still different from the norm. This design brings me to reason number 1. Lower pressure under the wing, creating downforce. Just like an aeroplane wing except upside down, a wing benefits a sprint car when the air pressure running underneath the wing is lower than the pressure above the wing, creating downforce, pushing the car into the ground and creating more drive. I thought maybe the burst coming from the exhaust would help speed up the flow underneath the wing. But when you look at this picture here, you can see that the exhausts aren't even pointed to the belly of the wing, so it can't be that. Number 2, downward thrust. I need to stress that we're probably talking of very, very small benefits here, right? But maybe teams are trying to benefit from the thrust created from the exhaust, pushing the car into the ground and helping produce forward bite. Remember, there's not too much data that sprint car teams use, and it's really just up to the crew chief and the driver to chat about things and take a swing. But I'm really not sure that either of those 2 reasons would really be enough to have these strange looking exhausts created, especially when it comes to the downforce theory, especially at small tracks like this one here in California, Placerville. Is there really that much extra downforce created for the wings? And are the wings really used that much at these small joints to really benefit sprint cars? Surely not that much, right? And that brings me to my 3rd point, heat. Heat on the shocks, the suspension, and the tires. Now I know what you're thinking, heat, really? Like, would that be it? Well, think about it. Directly behind where the exhaust usually faces are the tires, shocks, suspension arms, and more. Let's be honest, the tires will get hot regardless, but could the shocks and suspension run cooler? Teams spend a lot on getting the shocks right. When teams get data on their shocks, they use a shock dynamometer, or a shock dyno, which almost all of them have in their trailers, and crew chiefs use them every single day. Trust me, behind these doors on every race car trailer is a shock dyno, and they use them every single day. I know because I've done that, and when tuning and testing shocks, you want to eliminate as many variables as possible. This includes the type of dyno, the program, the test type, velocity, and yes, heat. See this here? That's a temperature sensor and is vital in ensuring that the shocks are consistently tested equally. So imagine the heat that the exhausts are putting on the shocks during race conditions. And lastly, reason number 4, maybe it's just a distraction. Maybe there's something bigger going on that they're trying to remove the attention from. So what is the real reason? Well, I don't think the people that are actually running it are gonna tell me what their theory is and whether it actually is beneficial or not. But there's nothing stopping me from asking their competitors, which I did.
I think it's monkey see, monkey do sort of stuff. You know, your sprint car racing's very much like that. Somebody does that and they think they're now going to have the perfect setup because Paul Silver does it on the 57 and Kyle Larson's won all those races. But I think it's got something to do with cooling the shocks down or something. There's been a lot of talk about that over the last few months. I think everyone's kind of struggling with the tyres and the car setups right now. I think there's a lot of guys that are really good and really bad. I'm in that boat, and you kind of sit here and scratch your head a little bit. So little things like that make people think way more than they need to, I think. We won with normal headers on tonight, and it didn't make us any better, but I think it's badass. I think we need to keep innovation in sprint car racing and not get too many more rules and allow people to actually engineer them and kind of like they did in the old days.
Would you ever try it?
We may have mocked a set up at the shop just to see what they look like, but our headers sit a little different with the Toyota and where they sit, so the Nerf bar's in the wrong way, and getting your collector length and primary length right, you know, it's not just turning a 90 and putting a muffler on it and calling it good. You know, we have, you know, specific lengths of collectors, primaries, and all of that sort of stuff to get, you know, the right power or drivability for each motor.
I don't really have a theory because I don't really think they do a whole lot, but I think the theory in the pits is that they're creating downforce. I do think, for a matter of fact, they keep the shocks and the tires cooler because the exhaust blowing on the shocks and the tires definitely heats things up, and you know, you can definitely feel the tires after the race. They're a little cooler, so I would say that there's a lot of conspiracy theories or theories on what it's actually doing, but I think the reason they actually did it was to keep everything cool. You don't want the shocks to get too hot, and you don't want obviously you don't want your tires too hot, so having the exhaust blow out away from the car, probably not a bad idea, really.